All right, wait until the little box turns green. Okay, and we are live. Gonna have some people rolling in pretty soon. So for those of you who are joining, uh, I hope I don't sound too bad, but my allergies are kicking my behind this week since it's spring, and so that always means that my body's like, oh hey, things are starting to grow. What is happening? So hopefully my voice isn't too bad. But other than that, I'm doing okay, and we, as always, uh, have our backup host, Tanya Celtic. She's going to be joining right now. How's it going, Tanya?
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing all right. I think I sound a little better than I did this morning, but I also haven't, been talking for any extended period of time, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay, new adventure.
Yeah. Well, and of course, I'm a little bit. I was already a little bit kind of frustrated with life because it is spring, so they're out there. They're repainting our apartment buildings on the outside, which means everything that was on our patios we had to move into our apartment, and we have a patio to store the crap that we can't fit into our apartment. So I'm even a little more cramped than I usually would be. So
That probably
is it
did not help at all.
Yeah, isn't springtime fun? I mean, springtime is fun. I prefer it to the dead of winter. And of course, that's without being in the Dakotas where you are. So I always feel awful whenever I complain about winter to you. But hey, it still snows here sometimes.
Yeah, just not often enough, right?
Well, for moisture, yeah, we could use more snow, but that doesn't provide a whole lot of moisture. What we need is more rain, which we got a little bit. Oh, all right. Well, see if I can get her back. Oh,
Sorry about.
well. Do you think that was you, or do you think that was TikTok being stupid, or what?
No, that was me. I accidentally moved the where the phone was, and I hit the wrong button. So that was
Oh,
me. Sorry.
oh yeah, that definitely happens. I haven't seen any of our guests show up ready
I
for.
just rounded them up, and they're all on their way.
Cool. All right. And I know that one of them, Meg, I believe, had asked, and I think she thought, is she coming later? She said 6:30, which may be 7:30 her time, but either way, the 30 threw me because it's definitely on the regular hour. So hopefully she wasn't expecting me to go live half an hour ago.
No, she had some stuff that she had to take care of really quick, and she's going to try to make it as soon as possible, but she may be arriving a little late.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I figured it was something like that. No, no worries. We're gonna be on here. We're gonna be on here long enough. Oh, somebody's requesting, and it's Nancy Peterson. All
Oh,
right.
yes, yes, yes. I'm so excited. Hi, Nancy.
How are
Nancy, how
you?
are you?
Good. Hey, my light is fading. I'm going to grab another light just outside my door, but I'll be right back.
All right,
Okay,
thank you.
sounds good. All right. So yeah, Nancy's popular. We're happy to have her on the show, and I know that it's always nice whenever we can get a narrator who also is a narrator for one of the guests we're going to have. So we're going to have JC Fuller on tonight, so you two can talk about collaborating, and that's always fun to have.
And in the audience, we have Aaron Smith, who's also a great narrator. And
Hi,
we
Erin.
also have Sandy, who is probably one of CJ or JC's and Nancy's fans. So,
All right. All right, and then also on the show, we're going to have authors Mike Conley and Meg Lindsay, who we brought up earlier. So, should be a good panel. I should let everyone know that my allergies have been weird. Me and Tanya were talking about that earlier. So, if my voice goes out or if my coughing becomes uncontrollable, I may have to take a pause, and Tanya may have to take over. But that works because she is really the brains behind this operation. So I have absolutely no problem in getting her hands. All right, let me invite Meg. Uh, how are you, Meg?
I'm doing great. Am I showing here? Oh, here we go. Camera.
There you are,
I
Meg.
am coming at you live from my car.
Oh.
How's everyone doing?
Doing all right. Allergies. It's allergy season, and it always takes me about a week for my body to get used to stuff growing again. I live in Texas, but I live in the Panhandle, so we actually have. It was a pretty mild winter this year in terms of snow, but it still gets cold, and it was below freezing like 4 days ago. So I think, but I think we're finally into spring, and so everything's starting to grow, and the wind is starting to blow, and we got dust in the air, and my body is like, hey, give me a little time to adjust because we go from the dead of winter to fully spring so quickly. There's no transition period in the Texas Panhandle, which is why you have to really, really want to live here. And for at least the next year, I will claim to really want to live here, and then I'm going to reevaluate.
And
So, um, I want to, let's see, are we time yet? Yes. All right. So it is 7 o'clock, which means the show has actually pretty much started. Whenever Mike and JC get here, we'll get them added to the conversation. Oh, there's JC. All right. So invite him. All right, and there she is. Hey, how you doing,
Hi.
JC?
Hi there, everybody.
Very good.
So
Oh,
I have a
and
funny
there's Mike.
thing.
I said it wrong again. Oh my gosh.
I had this secret idea. Well, not a secret idea. I think I know what lip color JC's going to wear. So I tried to come close to it. So JC, how close are we on our lip? Are we doing
We
the
are.
red lip?
Yep,
You're
we are.
almost
We're doing
spot
good.
on. You're
You
almost
guys
spot
have
on there.
outdone it. I am like post shower messy bun in my car because my kids wouldn't go down for bedtime.
And I am in a hoodie with a voice that may or may not go out. So y'all are way more put together than I am. And hi, Mike.
I applaud you both.
I don't know. I'm seeing people say hi, Nancy. I don't know why I can't, but I can't say hi back in the comments for some reason. But hi, Aaron, Sandy. I'm trying to see who else is saying hi, but anyway,
Well,
I'm excited to be here. I'll probably talk too much as I
there you
usually
go.
do. So
Well, good. Yeah, because people are gonna have to make up for my slack. And just so you know, Nancy, Tanya is great about responding to people in the comments, which
Tanya's
frees
awesome.
which frees us up to talk about stuff. And so I know when you're doing a live, and especially if you're by yourself, you'll want to say shout out to every single person. But we get a couple hundred people in here sometimes, so that's not exactly a doable thing. So Tanya does a great job with that. People will know that you love them, and we'll shout out to the audience several times throughout the show. I promise. But anyway, the show has started. This is Book Talk on Book Talk. I'm required to tell people, not required, but the more likes we get, the more TikTok pushes this out to people. So we love it when people hit the like button, and people down in the comments, and you all sharing this to your friends who you think might be interested also gets the conversation much livelier. And Tanya will see what people are talking about in the comments, and she'll bring stuff up, and if there are any burning questions. And thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. We got a full boat. All 6 boxes are checked, and that is the most I can have. So can't ask for much more than that. We've kind of already introduced everyone, but Mike was last to come in, so he'll be the first that I'll talk to. And Mike, the first question I like to ask people is, what is the latest book that you have out, and why don't you give us a brief rundown about what it's about?
Sure. So my latest book released is kind of tied for 2 different books. One is Adam and Elise, an Afterverse story, which is a side story for my space opera Afterverse series, which introduces 2 new characters. It's also a little light space romance that reads along beside it. Now, this is out on Kindle Vella, and the released version will be coming out next month for paperback and ebooks and going wide. But that kind of tied up with the labor of love I have, which was a book I wrote with my daughter. 11-year-old daughter partnered with me to write this book. She wrote some of the story, planned all the characters, chose every option about everything in it, and did editing and even helped with the cover and inside art and stuff. So my daughter
Go,
Kylan's
girl.
first dip into publishing is this book.
Very
Oh,
cool.
that is
That's
really cool.
That's so
amazing.
cool.
Canon of Ironhaven. It's a cozy, cute, middle grade urban fantasy.
Awesome. Well, yeah, those are two kind of new first things for us. Definitely partnering with your daughter is the first time I've heard that particular story on here, and we don't get a whole lot of space operas, so that's going to be a nice addition to the genres that we normally have in this group. And why don't we all go around? I know Nancy, you're a narrator, so we'll go with the other authors. But JC and Meg, why don't you break down for us what genres you write in and what the latest stuff you have going on.
You go first, Meg.
I was just so polite. All right. Well, my name is Meg. I write science fiction and fantasy, usually with a bit of a comedic twist. So I like to keep things in the realm of comedy. The book that I most recently released, which it's actually not quite a book, it's a completed book, which is being released by a serial fiction app that picked it up. And that's called A Tapestry of Fates. And it is actually not a comedy. It's the only book that I've written that isn't a comedy. It's pretty serious. It's nearing grim dark, but not quite. But it is a fantasy, sci-fantasy kind of blend. And basically, it's about three individual characters who don't know each other. Their lives are tied together by number one, this rising distortion technology, which they all are involved in some way, as well as their ties to knowing the secrets of this. Well, he's called a general prime, but he's basically a commander of the army that's just rising up in power. And they all know one of his secrets. He's basically the BBEG of the story, and that's where they're all tied together. So it's kind of got a Game of Thrones vibe, and that way it's multiple point of views. They're not all immediately related, and then as time goes on, you can see where the relations trail. So that's A Tapestry of Fates. It's released on Mithril, which is a serialized fiction app. They do amazing illustrations for all of that. So if you've never seen them before, definitely check them out. There's a lot of good stories on there, and you can start reading all of them for free. And then everything else is more on the comedy side, but stuff in the works.
All right, and we will come back to that app because I'm interested. So we'll come back and talk about technology.
Sure.
JC, I know that a lot of people on here are probably already very familiar with you, but why don't you run down what you write and what your latest is?
JC Fuller, mystery author. I write the Rockfish Island Mystery Series. The first book in the series is Black Bear Alibi, then The Push, and then the latest is False Findings. And it's based on a fictional Pacific Northwest island where there's a park ranger and, of course, unaliving occurs. And there's a new female sheriff who's a little, at first, not the most lovable. But she grows on you eventually, and they together solve the unalivings.
Awesome.
Notice how she stresses that fictional, so nothing comes back at her, you know?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm a thriller writer, so I do a lot of unaliving, and I'm not going to say I've killed someone in the past, but I'm not going to say I'm not. I'm going to leave it up to you to decide whether or not I've done my own unaliving. No, just kidding. But so JC, I'm glad you went last on that because that's a good segue into Nancy, who narrates for you. So why don't Nancy, you tell us a little bit about how you found JC or JC found you? Like the voice actor stories about how they found their authors always fascinate me. So if you'd let everyone know how that happened, I think I would appreciate it.
Tell them our love story, Nancy.
Okay, I will. It was actually about this time last year. We get together. I'm from Utah. We have this wonderful narrator group here. We get together for lunch once a month. Sat down with them and I'm like, you guys, I feel like I have to do TikTok now. And if any of you are like, if you're like me, you're like, do we have to do one more social media? You know what I mean, right? If you're an independent author, you probably get it. So anyway, that was the conversation we had, and I'm like, oh, I guess I better do it. So I did it, and JC was probably one of the first authors that I connected with. And we just kind of hit it off. I was following her, she followed me back, and then that kind of, became friends with all of her friends and so on. And I asked her, I reached out to her. I can't remember if I reached out to you first or you reached out to
I
me.
reached out to you first.
You did. Okay. I couldn't remember the order of that. But we were just kind of messing around. She was like, tell me a little bit about what it goes into audiobooks. And so I did that, but I had some ideas as well. And I'm like, what if we tried, would you be willing to do this with me? So we just kind of became fast friends, TikTok friends, which led to this amazing collaboration on the Rockfish Island mystery series, which is delightful. And can I tell you, these people are real. I don't care what anyone else says. They are real. Just so you know.
And you make them real. All the
Yeah,
voice actors on here. I always admit, I'm always in awe of what you guys are able to do. Especially since I only have to know how to spell things. You have to know how to pronounce them, which is a whole other bag of worms. So Meg and Mike, do you guys work with voice actors? Are your books available in audio in any format?
Go ahead.
Not currently. One that I have coming out in the fall, I'm thinking about. So it's currently going to be semi-graphic, so I'm getting it illustrated, but it is like almost like a full-length novel. It's 75,000 words, so just a little on the short side. And we've talked about getting it narrated because the characters could definitely use that extra little bit of pizzazz that I think
All right.
a narrator offers. Yeah.
All right. How about you, Mike?
I'm not yet. I keep toying with the idea. My series, I have the first book out. I have the second book that'll be out within a month and a half. And then I'm planning the third book out later this year. And so I'm really thinking probably when I get the trio out there, I'll do something across all three with the same narrator and maybe even make it a box set narration. But I'm really just toying with the idea right now. I would love to do a split with someone narrating it, but at this point, I think until I get more books and I get more normalized sales, then I'd want to wait till doing that. So books selling good, but it's not as good as it'll be doing when I get the full series out.
Gotcha. Well, and one thing this show's good for is we have Nancy, we have a lot of really good narrators down in the comments, and I'm sure some of them I haven't even seen pop their head in. So a lot of people here who can help guide you, who can maybe are interested in doing your narration. So voice
I lost
actors,
my light.
go ahead
I'm still here.
and follow Mike and talk to him, and let's see if we can get that set up. Because the one thing that I've kind of learned talking with a lot of the voice actors is it's never too early to get started. Even if it's just sending them that first book and getting them interested, like the earlier you can start that process, the better. And Nancy, I think you can probably get a little more detailed about why that might be important if you're thinking about having someone narrate your book.
Absolutely. I recently did a presentation at my local university, and part of that was about independent authors getting their audiobooks produced. And I have some excellent news for you. Just in general, for all of us, the audiobooks continue to have double-digit growth. They have since I've been a narrator, which was 10 years ago. Double-digit growth. It's becoming more and more popular as for people to listen to and for people to make them. So that to me is a reason for you to at least consider it. Now, if, like, let's say, for example, you want to have this ready in the fall, it's not too early to start reaching out. And April, I hope April's still here. April, can I share what you did? Would you just like do a thumbs up in the comments? Because I think what April did was really an interesting, okay, so April's like, yes, okay. So April's another of my friends. So anyway, April did something really interesting. She got on TikTok and she said, I don't know if anyone would want to narrate my books. And I'm planning on royalty share, but it was so interesting because if I'm remembering correctly, you're sad. You're sad, TikTok. Anyway, I remember narrators came out of the woodwork on her wanting to support her. One thing about the narrator community in general is that we tend to be a very supportive group of people, just all the way around. And so most narrators you reach out to are happy to answer your questions. I'm happy to answer people's questions. It's partly because I think we just love it. Most people who do it really have a genuine love for it as an art form. So, we're kind of passionate. But she put that out there and was able to, through a series of, just through TikTok, was able to find just the right narrator for her books. And so, and I say that because I think, oh, thanks. Anyway, I feel like she was feeling a little gun shy about the process. If I'm reading that incorrectly, April, let me know. But I feel like she was like, does anyone want to narrate my books? It's kind of the feeling. She's like, I just don't know. But you would be surprised. There are people who, if you can, even here on TikTok, you could even say something like that. I've had other people get on here and say, hey, tag your narrator friends. I'm looking for a narrator. This is what I'm looking for, a royalty share or royalty share plus, or, we can even talk about, I don't know if it's appropriate to talk on here, but I could even tell you what that even means. But, just
I know what the royalty shares mean. What
mm-hmm.
I was worried about doing something like royalty share was
Mm-hmm.
if I were to do a royalty share now with book one, and I really wanted to engage with this the narrator, and do it through book 2 and 3. I've heard from some other authors when they're doing royalty shares, they may not get the same narrator all the way through. Is
Right.
that a real concern? Is
It
that a
is.
real fear?
Yes, and that is because yes, because with a royalty share, and this is something that a lot of times, if I don't do much royalty share, I haven't done any royalty share for a long time, but going in as a royalty share, one of the things that I would always mention to the authors is, look, I feel like this looks great and I'd love to give it a shot. However, if I don't get a return on my investment of my time and resources, because I also have expenses. If I don't get a return on that, I probably will not be able to do book 2. So that's valid. I want to validate what you're saying, because you could end up in a situation where you have to choose a different narrator. It happens. It's not the end of the world, but if you have someone you really like, then it might end up being a little more tricky to find someone who's a good fit after that.
So this is really interesting. Oh, so
Go
sorry.
ahead. No, absolutely. Go ahead.
Well, just speaking on the royalty share, how would you find a narrator that is what they go for, what they look for, what they're interested in, as opposed to, say, a flat fee or certain rate? Because I hadn't even tiptoed into, finding a narrator, because I figured it was something a little further down on the plate after I had some royalties that had already come in so I could invest. So what percentage of narrators would you say are interested in this sort of opportunity?
I don't know if I could give you a percentage, but a lot of people who are new are much more willing to give it to take that risk, because it is a risk. And just for a little bit of perspective, I will spend a good amount of time in my booth every day, or I'm doing other things related to my audiobook work throughout the day. I work pretty much full time, but I'm usually producing 1 to maybe, if I'm pushing it, 2 hours of finished audio a day. So if you have a 7-hour book, yours sounds like it'd be a 7 or 8 hour book in length, the one you were just describing. That is going to take a narrator anywhere from, at a minimum 4 days, if they're putting in long days to do. And so there's, that is full time. So if they don't have another job or whatever, that's them working on your project 4 solid days. So, at some point there needs to be some sort of remuneration, because if it's, if does that make sense? But let me tell you one way you can go look right now. If you go to ACX is the big kid in the sandbox. In fact, ACX owns the sandbox, and hopefully with time that'll change a little bit. But ACX, Amazon, Audible, all the same company. So they're not going to give another distribution site a better deal than they give themselves. So for example, if you want to go through Findaway, that's great. However, or, it used to be Authors Republic. They're changing it up now, or Spoken Realms, or there are a bunch of audiobook distribution companies out there. And I forgive me if I didn't mention the one you love, but they're not going to give them a better deal than they're going to give themselves through ACX. It just works to their advantage, right? So that's why I'm saying ACX. Go to ACX. You can actually look up producers. Producers are the same thing as narrators 99% of the time, because we're actually producing the audiobook. So if you go look up, just take some of your favorite narrators' names, type them in the search bar, see if you can find them. Right on their profile, they'll tell you exactly what they accept. So they'll tell you their per finished hour range. And just so you know, the range is not like negotiable for most people. Like, that's just the way ACX is set up. It'll say like $200 to $400. That's the range. Now your narrator may charge $205, right? I'm just doing that as an example. It's not like you come and say, well, I'm going to give you $200, or if they charge $350, well, I'm going to charge, I'm going to offer $200. They'll basically say, well, mine is actually, and they'll tell you what their rate is. So am I going too fast?
No, that's fine.
Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you'll be able to, you'll be able to see on there if they accept royalty share. And I'm going to throw something out there. If you're someone who is really passionate, you're committed to marketing, and you want that narrator, then maybe you can send them a message on their profile. Just say, you know what? I'm going to be doing royalty share, but I really would love to get your input. Are you open to this? And then this is scary, and I'm just going to tell you right now, you need to be willing to share your sales numbers, because this is a business decision, and your narrator really needs to have the bottom line. It's not like you're divulging super personal information. These are business decisions that they need to make. So if you're going in and saying, hey, this is my marketing plan, this is about how many you're selling right now, I would love to partner with you if you're interested. Anyway, it's, you know what, you'll never gain anything by not trying. So you can go in there and you can ask, but you can usually find them. And a lot of narrators, we have websites. Just Google. That's how, I think, JC, is that how you found me?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
I seen you on TikTok and then reached out through your website, and I expected just a generic, like, thank you for contacting Nancy Peterson's website, and I got a phone call.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and that's TikTok is really great, and the narrators that are on here are really great. Well, we get so many stories every week about, that's how people found their narrators were here on TikTok. And if I know our audience, you're going to have a couple people in your messages after this, both Mike and Meg, offering to give advice, offering to say, hey, send me your book and let me see, maybe I'm interested. So hopefully that happens. Narrators in the comments, if you can help, please do. We love our guests, and we love to help them achieve their goals. That's one of the reasons why we do Book Talk on Book Talk every week. A couple of kind of administrative things. One, we're almost up to 5,000 likes, which is awesome. You guys are great. We're getting a lot of gifts, which is very cool. We are all small creators here, so if you can give gifts, we love that. We will take every little bit. And we did see, I don't know about you, Tanya, I saw that we had a troll in the comments. That person's been muted, blocked, and everything. And so that doesn't happen a lot. So we appreciate you sticking with us. We did moderate that person. So yeah, Tanya went ahead and got it too. It's unfortunate, but the reason we had a troll was because we have such a big audience. We are really getting people interested in this conversation. So that is absolutely wonderful. So I want to circle back, Meg. Tell us a little more about that serialized app, because I know those are popping up, but I haven't found a lot of authors who actually do use that kind of platform. So tell us just briefly a little more about that.
Absolutely. So, with full transparency, this has been a little bit of an experiment for me because I was kind of on the edge where I wasn't sure if I really wanted to go indie or if I wanted to go the traditional route and seek representation. And so, what I did was just kind of test the waters of the serialized fiction app. This is called Mithril. It's spelled Mythrill. So, Mithril Fiction, and they do just science fiction and fantasy. And so, what really pulled me into being interested in this app is I saw somebody advertising it on Twitter, and they had showed that this app creates something called lore cards for all of their characters. So it's almost like it's like having trading cards for all of your characters, where they get an amazing artist in there. They do beautiful drawings of them. They create a cover for you. They do the editing for you. And so I thought it just seemed like a great way to get my story out there, get audience opinions, learn more about my writing style in something that's kind of in between traditional and indie publishing. And I've had a lot of fun with it. They do episode by episode. So instead of having chapters, you have shorter episodes that are like 750 to 1500 words. If anybody here is on Reddit serials or does any work with Reddit serials where they like to serialize their fiction, they'll be familiar with this sort of thing. But that is what Mithril is. They're specific to science fiction and fantasy with low to no romance. So there's not a lot of spice there. But amazing, amazing books and amazing artwork and artists and authors all involved with it.
Hey, Meg, real quick, what kind of microphone are you using? We think there might be getting a little bit of feedback. Is it just what's on your phone? Or...
Hey, let me move it to my phone and off of my earbuds. I'm so sorry.
That might be it. Well, and you're also in a car, it's like, who knows? And it may not even be you. It's just as you were talking, we were hearing. So,
you guys, I might as well throw my hood up because I look like shady AF here.
No.
My kids were throwing tantrums, and it's like an hour past bedtime. So I was like, hey, I'm on BookTalk, y'all. I have a wonderful husband. So he's got them covered, and I'm here in the car with a light on because we don't have a basement currently.
I'm definitely going to check you out on Mithril and check out Mithril because it sounds like it might be better than Kindle Vella for sci-fi authors. I'm doing Vella, and
please, sorry.
I'm doing Vella, and it's tough for a sci-fi author on there. You have to do a lot of work every day to get readers. So I'm looking forward to checking you out and checking out that platform.
Well, and
please do.
And that's what I was going to ask is if have you done any work on Vella or anything similar, Meg, to give us kind of a compare and contrast?
So I haven't done anything on Vella. I've published one book through KDP, but that's different.
Gotcha. All right, and what I like about and I've seen a couple of romance apps, and it seems like these apps that are coming out, it seems like they're going to be genre specific, and it seems like it started with romance, and now we've got a sci-fi one. But what I think is funny and cool is that serialized fiction is obviously a very old concept, right? Like most of the classics, the quote classics that we read started out as serials in the major national magazines, and then a publisher came along and said, hey, I want to combine all these, and they put it out into book form. So it's funny how technology has taken us, all the way kind of back to the early 1900s with how we're distributing our stories. And of course, my brain, whenever it thinks about ways to help innovate, the industry that we're all in, the serialized app was definitely in the back of my mind. And then Kindle Vella came out, and I was like, all right, well, Amazon went ahead and scooped up that idea. But I like that other apps are coming along and doing that same sort of thing. Did somebody mention either in the comments or live that the Kindle Vella, romance seems to be the genre that is most popular on there? Were you saying that, Mike?
MK was saying it in the comments, but I totally agree. So romance has got a strong foothold in Kindle Vella. And that's no surprise. Like romance is well read, and a lot of people are looking for it. It is a little harder to discover things on Kindle Vella, and the audience. It's been a little harder bringing people to that audience, and part of it is because it's kind of hidden in Amazon, and it's not worldwide, and so you're getting a trimmed down audience, and people aren't sure how long it's going to be there or if it's going to continue. Probably is, but it isn't going as out of beta phases as quick as people would like. Right now, if you're not in romance, you're having to do a lot to get readers. But those that do that work to get readers are doing pretty good. But a lot of the readers, I'll say, for sci-fi are other authors. So other authors on Vela are reading other Velas for sci-fi and some of the other genres. But I think it could grow. But I think right now probably a more sci-fi focused ones would be better for us sci-fi authors, especially the lower known ones.
Well, I definitely seen, writers are always, the first and best readers, right? Like that's definitely how that works. And it's nice. I think it's fun right now that romance is really driving the innovation in the publishing industry, because for so long and still among major publishers and some of the like publishing elite and the really old guard, romance is looked down upon, and there's just no other way to say it. It just is. And so I think it's awesome that the currently romance authors and readers are pushing the innovation in the industry. I think it's super fun, and I'm kind of enjoying watching from the sidelines, not writing romance, and kind of like taking a little break from trying to do the traditional publishing thing. Now, us mystery thriller writers like JC and I, we have huge built-in audiences, and so that sometimes presents its own problem in terms of, like, I'm one of 100 authors out there that are all comparing ourselves to James Patterson and Dave Baldacci and those guys. So, JC, what do you do with your stories that make them fresh and different for the folks who already like that cozy mystery? Because that is a huge audience that you are trying to get a market for.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. My mysteries are. I was shaking my finger at Tanya the other day. I don't know if they would classify as cozy, because there is some red stuff on the page. So I like to coin it the not so cozy, but it's not super graphic either. So it's kind of, I guess it would be considered a traditional mystery. But I think what I try to do is I try to make a clever mystery where the reader, as you go, you start to formulate your own idea of who it might be, and then I pull the wool right out from under.
A good red herring is so useful, and they're not easy to do. I think a lot of, like, if you read a good mystery like the ones you write, the red herrings, it seems like something that authors do it and it caught me by surprise, and yay. But there is so much work that goes into that. Like, talk a little bit about what you've improved in terms of your craft, both like with red herrings or the stuff that you've worked on to get you where you are.
I'd have to say I think my writing style has improved. I published Black Bear Alibi back in 2019 as kind of just a vanity to see, bucket list type thing, having no idea that it would turn into an actual series. And by the third book, I feel like my writing has matured, and I think my mysteries are getting a little bit more complicated. I think one of the bigger mistakes that I did with Black Bear Alibi is I was so nervous that, because I hadn't written a mystery before, that people wouldn't get what I was thinking, that I was leaving breadcrumbs. And then I was like, did you see that? Did you notice that? Did you see that breadcrumb? And I kind of sometimes gave the mystery away a little bit too much. And some people are like, I had no idea. And other people are like, I saw it a mile away. And I'm like, sorry, so now I try to be a little bit more sneakier about it. But I love coming up with a good red herring. I mean, it's probably one of my favorite things. It's just the maniacal.
Oh yeah, I gave a workshop last weekend, maybe the weekend before. I don't know, lots of weekends. But I was at a conference away, and somebody asked me about whenever you're leading people down a path and you're leaving clues, like how do you do that? And I said, very carefully, and I do it in edits, because a lot of times you don't even know who done it until you get there. Sometimes, depending on if you plot or pants, and some of the best twists and the best red herrings come as you're writing. So you need to get through there, and then during edits go back and look, and there are some passages and some sentences that you just have to write so intentionally and phrase them exactly correctly to where, the thing I said, you have to play fair with your audience. You have to,
Yes.
whenever the big reveal comes, they have to remember in an instant exactly what you said when you said it, and it all makes sense. And when you can do that, that gives them that dopamine hit that they're looking for, which is one of the reasons why they read novels like yours and mine. And so being able to do that, yes, it is difficult, and I do it the best during edits, and sometimes that's the first pass and then the second pass, and then you read it one more time and you're like, okay, I can be a little more subtle here. Let me take out this and let me move that around. It's definitely a hard task. Now, Nancy, when you're narrating that type of thing, do you like read it all the way through and know who does what, and does that help inform how you read to make sure that you as an actor don't accidentally give something away? Because with voice inflection, you could totally read a passage way too slyly, and the reader might be like, oh well, now I know who did it. Like, do you have to think about that stuff as you're going?
Absolutely. Well, there are a couple of reasons why I should read it to begin with, because there have been people who were surprised when they got halfway through the book that one of their characters had an accent. So if you're going along
There
and
you
he
go.
says something in his thick Scottish brogue halfway through the book, that means you're going to have to go back and redo the whole thing, right? So it doesn't work out well. No, pre-reading is really important. The only time that doesn't apply, well, there are a couple of situations where it doesn't. One is if you have a director, and this is usually for a celebrity like, say, Tom Hanks, who comes in. They have that book prepped for them. They have arcs and outlines of each chapter and character breakdowns. So, and me as a narrator, if I'm super busy, I can actually have someone do that for me. But I have to choose someone who I know is going to basically do a thorough book report on each chapter and give me a thorough breakdown on the characters. So I have a really good idea of what's going to happen. And then, one thing that is interesting is, yeah, there are breadcrumbs. I actually want to minimize those.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like go, like there's one in the push right at the beginning where I could have kind of highlighted something that was happening. And instead of, I want to pull back on that because I want to almost make it in the background. Like, we're just setting a scene. There's nothing going on here. It's just what it is, right?
Oh yeah. Well,
So,
and part of writing, and part of the craft of writing a mystery thriller, as JC well knows, is hiding your clues in the middle of a chapter, in the middle of a scene, and in the middle of a long paragraph. Like really, really burrowing down. That way, as the reading, won't know that it's a clue until it's the right time. And so it sounds like you also have to be cognizant whenever you're reading to do that same thing, to not read that thing in any weird tone of voice, not to highlight it, to let it be part of the background until that big reveal comes.
yeah.
And JC, go ahead.
And if I can add something that Nancy and I learned together on book one, when I wrote the book, I didn't dream that I would be doing an audiobook. So now when I write a book, we got to a certain scene, and I remember Nancy kind of stopped and she went, how do we read this? Because there's certain, you get these characters' voices, and my reveal in the book is, there's like a good half a chapter where the bad guy's talking to the good guy, and you still don't know who it is, but you would know by vocal who it is. So she cleverly came up with a whisper, but I was like, okay, I have to make sure in the future when I write a book that I'm going to have Nancy narrate, that I do the reveal a little bit differently so that it's not given away by the voice of the character in audiobook.
And I had one like that was done by phrasing, by the way a character phrased certain things and tied them together rather than actual dialect. So I want to turn my attention now to Mike and ask you why and how you got started writing space operas, because as I said, we don't get a lot of people who write that on this panel. So I'm interested in what drew you to that kind of writing, because I enjoy watching some space operas, Star Trek probably being the big one, but that's not even really applicable to most space operas. So that's a genre I'm not totally familiar with. So I'm very interested in how you got into writing that genre. Oh, I think you might be muted. Let me see if I can unmute you, Mike. There you go. There he is.
All right. So let me do a favor for you guys first. I'll describe what space opera is, because I think there's a little
Great idea.
misunderstanding generally what it is.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, the thing to know is the most beloved sci-fi in movies and TV has been space opera. You can give examples of Star Trek, Star Wars, Mandalorian, Firefly. I could go on that list and just keep going and going. What a space opera really is a story about the people with a little bit of a relationship, either familial or romantic. A little bit of a relationship. It's about the people and an epic story and a journey of discovery that happens to be with high technology in space in a spacefaring um, culture. It's not about the technology itself. And that's why it actually makes it a little more approachable, a little more enjoyable. So when you think Star Wars, they didn't tell you how the shields work. They didn't tell you how the warp drive worked. It just happened that people knew how it worked and you knew the story of the people who used it and lived in that world. And that's why it's really one of the most popular sci-fi genres, because you don't need to know a lot on the technical side or spend a lot of mental power getting to know the technical side to actually enjoy the story. So it is has a wider audience, but unfortunately they tend to not know what the name of the what the name of the genre they love is. So a lot of people don't know that Star Wars is space opera. So there's a little problem with that. Now, as far as my loving it, I really fell in love with Isaac Asimov, which his Foundation series is space opera primarily. He does other things and he gets into different places, but overarching, it's a space opera until you get into Empire, but that's a whole nother part of it. Um, but I really loved the way he approached the stories and brought them to life for the average person. So one of the intentional things that Isaac Asimov did was brought the sci-fi writing level down from 11th, 12th grade to 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And what he did is wrote it in a really common voice that most people can understand and back off the technology aspects to really get it to be comprehensible. Um, might talk about a big idea, but not go into the detail of it. And I really loved how he did that for the time. And when I was much, much, much younger than I am, I fell in love with that series. And that's what kind of drove me to what I've been seeking out in my reading for most of my life. Now, I love sci-fi and fantasy and kind of anything in between. But for my first series, I wanted to write space opera specifically because of Isaac Asimov and his influence over me, and because of J.N. Chaney, a really prolific modern day space opera writer who personally motivated me to write my first book. So it's because of those two influences I really went that direction. Now I could have went I could have went fantasy like lit RPG or something like that, and really enjoyed myself and wrote something fun. But because of the influences, I went that direction, and I love it.
You know, and that's why a lot of us write what we do is because we fell in love with a certain author or a group of authors. Isaac Asimov is actually, I remember reading those paperbacks in middle school, and I really enjoyed them, and I enjoyed Ray Bradbury, but I think I kind of forgot about those a little bit as I got older, and then I started reading crime fiction more, and as I became a reporter, I was, reporting on crime, and so it's always interesting. But I enjoyed Isaac Asimov as a kid as well. And then Meg, you write a different kind of fantasy. What drew you to the kind of stuff that you write?
So it's interesting what Mike said because, you know, okay, poster child right now of fantasy would be, or one of many poster childs would be Brandon Sanderson. And what he says is that writing fantasy is the same as writing any other kind of book. You can write a mystery, you can write a romance, you can write a thriller, or you can write something high action or low action. But you can do all those things. It's really just about the characters. That's what you're really writing about is the characters and their journey. But if you can have dragons, why not have dragons? So that's basically where I am with fantasy is I always loved reading fantasy. Now I have written stuff before that was not fantasy, and the book that I have coming out is the comedy spoof. It's a more like sci-fi, but it takes place in Manassas, Virginia, right? So it's like modern day. But that's kind of where I went into fantasy is I loved the idea of being able to have like beautiful relationships and romances and mysteries, but have everything be something that's just a little bit different from your everyday, since it's an escape as it is.
Yeah, so
And,
doing kind of the space
absolutely.
opera thing, but in fantasy, right?
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Well, and we always talk about genres because really book marketers have made us talk about genres, and that's how we sell our books. And then some people like you take JC. You're not cozy, but you're not like you don't write the same kind of noir dark stuff that I do. But we both could be called mystery, and then mine is also called thriller. It's also called suspense. A lot of times it depends on what the either the award committee or the panel committee decides I am. Like they tell me what it is kind of that I've written, and publishers do that a lot of times with our stories. And so I don't often like trying to label people as different genres, but we just have we had a wide range in this panel, which isn't always the case. So I thought I wanted to highlight it. Nancy, we had a question for you
Sure.
about voice acting, kind of a technical question. And we've asked this of a couple different voice actors, and it's always a little different. But what sort of exercises do you do to warm up your vocal cords before you start, trying to record something live for your books?
Well, I'll show you actually.
Ooh, we love visuals
Yes.
on TikTok.
Yes. This is something, if you've seen my lives, you've maybe seen me pick this up. This is called the vocal straw or the voice straw. Voice straw. So I like to, you can use it like a straw or just a regular straw in a glass of water, and you can do, like scales with your voice. So for me, I'll just put it together like this. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. And I do scales and I do all kinds of things. But what it does for me, I tend to tighten. A lot of us do. We hold tension in our neck and in around the larynx. So for me, I don't do a lot of tongue twisters or things to make my mouth move faster. I actually try and relax. What this does is it forces air like right back down into where the larynx is, and it pushes their air back, creating a balloon and forcing the muscles down there to relax. It works for me because it just increases my longevity. Because when you're tight, that's when you start to get rasp. That's when you get fatigue. That's when you get kind of the croaking or whatever. So for me, that's the best. And here's the other thing that really helps. I stand when I read, and I'm always checking my posture. Posture is so important to your foundation. Everything like from here down is all foundational for what's coming out here. So making sure I'm standing properly and I've got my legs, like hip width apart, and I move a lot. If you've ever seen my lives, I'm kind of bouncing around. That's just me. But that's all part of keeping this functioning properly. So anyway, there you go.
No, that's great, and it's like we talk about craft. Writers talk about craft with each other so much, and we all kind of know that shorthand. But I think hopefully there are a lot of writers on here who are gaining an appreciation of what it is that voice actors do to bring our stories to life, and so we love hearing about that and getting to see that. That was great. I think Tanya and I were having the same thought. I wanted to. We're coming up toward the top of the hour, not quite there yet, but we already have over 10,000 likes, which is the quickest we've gotten there, and we have had all kinds of gifts. I can't even. I would not even be able to keep up with trying to thank everybody, so I'm gonna have to do it all at once. But this has been a great audience and a really great panel. Like I am having a lot of fun despite my allergies making me not feel super great. And whenever you're talking about your voice being bad, it's like, oh, let's see. Yeah, I definitely am holding tension, and like I've been coughing all day, and like my whole ear, nose, throat situation. So, it's like, yeah, like I cannot imagine that affecting my ability to do my job basically at all. Because as a writer and working from an office from home, I may not feel great, but I can still get my job done. But if you had your allergies acting like this, there would be no point in trying to record. So yeah, just one of the many things that you voice actors go through. Since we are coming up toward the top of the hour, and since I have been coughing a little more, I am going to let Tanya grill you guys for a little bit and ask her questions, because she always has a very much deeper understanding of what you guys are doing, because You've been friends with her a lot longer than you have me. So, Tanya, why don't you go ahead and ask your burning questions for a few minutes?
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Tanya.
Hey.
Hello.
I'm so glad to have this panel tonight. I love every single one of you to bits. You do not know how much I do.
Thank you.
Let's start off with Meg. I know that you've got another story idea running around in your head. You were mentioning it the other day. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, let's see. One that I've started on and one that I haven't.
The one that you haven't yet.
Okay, so there's two that I hadn't when I posted it, and then I started both of them. This is
Oh,
what I
did
do.
you?
Start both of them and see which one feels like it's flowing better, and that's what I jive with. So, they're very different. The first one is a YA fantasy romance, right? So very traditional, but it's a little bit different. It takes some kind of Mayan influences to it, and basically the magic is based on basically having like tree roots. It's very
Mhm.
complicated, but there's like a root magic system. So that's the first one that I started going with. And the second one is a lit RPG, and it's more of a it's kind of like a blend between if anyone's the Red Rising series, Red Rising and Ready Player One. So it's not hardcore lit RPG, but it's definitely got about half of the book takes place in the game, and it takes place on Mars as well. So I was started working on it's also YA, kind of a lit RPG. And that one seems to be taking a little bit better because again, I tend to go towards comedy, and anyone who reads lit RPG knows that it's just all too easy to insert.
I think that was
Absolutely.
the one that you had told me about.
Oh,
And
okay.
I was really excited about that one because of how you described it and the games. So I really hope that that's the next one that gets published, because if it does, I'm going to be buying that one. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, we got to have more gals in lit RPG. It's a
I
thing.
agree. I agree. And Nancy,
Yeah.
we were talking the other day, well, maybe it was this morning, but we were talking, and I found out that you have over 250 um, titles that you have narrated so far. Is
Yeah.
that right?
It's very close to that. Yes.
And I kept telling Nancy that her voice sounded so familiar, and I could not figure out why it sounded so familiar. Well, it comes to reason that half of my audiobook collection is Nancy. and,
Yeah.
and so I feel like I've known you for a lot longer than I actually have now.
I love it. I love it. No, but it's like we're friends already, right? I'm
Right.
the same way. I'm the same way with like, oh, can I tell you a story? Do we have time?
Sure.
Oh, okay. I had this amazing experience because before I was narrating audiobooks, I've listened to audiobooks like my whole life. I listened to, and I'll tell you the title because it meant a lot to me. It was Alan Bradley's Flavia DeLuce series. It's sort of a YA mystery, and it's delightful. And anyway, it's narrated by an amazing narrator named Jane Entwistle, and I've just been a huge fan of hers. I've listened to her, for 20 years, honestly. Anyway, I got to see her on a Zoom call with narrators, and I was just dumbstruck. I was in my little, how you can do the breakout rooms. I was in my little breakout room. I'm like, you guys, Jane Entwistle's here. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to behave. I'm like, she's here, like the person who inspired me. So they said, you got to say something. You got to say something. So then we break out in the big room, and all the people in my group are raising their hands like, Nancy's got something to say. So anyway, I did. I just said, you don't often get an opportunity to tell someone how much they impacted your life, and they don't even know it. And so I was able to tell her the impact she had. I mean, and so it was this really wonderful moment. But at the same time, I almost felt like I knew her, just because of her work. But it was amazing. She probably thinks I'm really scary now. I don't know. I hope not. I hope she thinks I've been stalking her. But there's something to me that is very intimate about someone reading you a book, and so they do feel like friends. I
Yes.
just have a special place in my heart for those books that I love and the audiobooks that I love. So anyway, okay, sorry. I will be quiet now.
No, you kind of answered my question. I was going to ask you, have you ever run into a situation like that yourself?
Yes. Oh, all the time. When I
Yeah.
first met Scott Brick, this was me. Yeah. Or yeah, I can give you lists of people because honestly, like I said, the narrator community is pretty small, so you meet a lot of the people out there that you've listened to for years, and it's awesome because I love the community. Anyway, yeah.
And aside from JC's books, because we know she's one of your favorite authors, what was one of your other books that you were able to narrate that has become a close favorite of yours?
Okay, that's such a hard question because honestly, it's hard for me not to narrow it down to one, but I've decided that the first really like memoir that I did in historical fiction means a lot to me because it really sort of created an opportunity for the rest of my career in historical fiction. And that was for a book out there. I haven't been in touch with the author for years, but it was called The Night I Danced with Rommel, written by Elizabeth Marion, who is a native of Germany. She now lives in the UK. It's her mother's story in World War II. It took me, well, it was hard for many reasons. It was difficult material, but it was, aside from that, it was a story that to me was a story of hope and love and really an amazing story about someone who was an actual hero in World War II. Um, and and because I had to learn some accents I wasn't familiar with, it was painful. It took me months to do that one book, and thankfully she was very patient and helped me through it because she was German, she understood German, and she helped me with the words and the accent and all of that. So I have to say that probably is the one that has in my own career has meant the most to me because it was the hardest, um, and it really was a launching point for most of my body of work, which is historical fiction. Though I do everything, historical fiction is what I'm actually most often contracted by publishers to do.
And you have such a great voice for it. And that's where most of my books from you are is historical fiction.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
And thank you. JC, I really want to defend myself for calling your mystery cozy mystery because I write psychological thrillers and some horror in there as well. So when you say there's blood on the page, I have bodies totally dismantled all over the page.
You like
So,
sprinkling.
so yeah, yours is just a sprinkle of blood there. But I got a chance to read your first book, Black Bear Alibi, and I love the way you write. I love the way you suck us all in there and you just wring us dry by the time we're done with that book. Can you give us some examples of things that you thought would be an excellent idea to put in the book, but somebody told you, yeah, not so much. Let's kind of keep that out of there a little bit.
No, that you know what that I didn't have a situation like that. I did at one point. I was going to make. Well, I can't even tell you that because I don't want to give it away to anyone that hasn't read it yet. But there was a side character that I was going to end up being in cahoots with the bad person, and it would have been a really good like. So if like I ever get a movie, they're like, okay, we want to do your story, but we don't want to make it the same ending. I have a counter ending. I do. I've already got it, and it would have been jaw dropping. But I wanted I liked this secondary character so much. I wanted to make sure they were in the next book, and I was like, well, if I make them a bad person, I can't keep them in the series. So that's what made the deciding factor was I wanted them to stick around a little bit longer. So, but it would have been so good.
And I love your TikToks that you do. And
Oh,
that's what brought me to you first. And you have some of the best about going in and having these characters call you up with complaints. Which one is your favorite one?
oh, I really enjoy doing my Grammarly counseling sessions with Grammarly. Uh,
Yeah.
but I feel like sometimes I come across as a real big meanie. I enjoy also doing my annoyed reviews. When I read someone else's books and I really liked it, I do a 5-star annoyed review about how annoying that this person's such an excellent writer for whatever reason. And it's funny because I've had other people like play it back and I'm like, oh my God, like if you don't know who I am, you're gonna think I'm a raging meanie, like it's a terrible person. So that's kind of hard. They're fun.
I think my favorite one was when you walk across the screen and you realize you got caught trying to bury the body.
Me and my shovel. Yeah.
Yes, you and your shovel. That's the best of them, I think. Mike, I have been
Yes.
waiting to get you on this. You had a book that you've had to sideline recently, but I want you to tell everybody about it because it is a wonderful book and I can't wait to hear about it.
Which book?
The one we were talking about the other day.
Past the Fall?
Yeah.
All right. And this is horrible because I printed it out on a laser printer. I'm not even sure you're going to see it. But this is the kind of the cover for Past the Fall. It looks much better in person. Past the Fall is something I purpose wrote for Kindle Vella. And I started it out probably about 7 months ago and put a couple episodes out. And then I had to put some things on hold due to personal life and some other priorities. And then I picked it back up about a month and a half ago, and I've been writing in it weekly since, except for the last 2 weeks because I'm pushing my 2 books that are coming out in the next couple of weeks, so I had to spend some good time with those. But it's a story which is a post-zombie apocalypse set 10 years after the fall of man, where not like anything you've seen before, so it's not really like a Walking Dead or anything like that, but it's really where society is trying to rebuild itself and live within the new reality they have, but trying to keep hold of technology and knowledge that we've had previously. And not everyone who still survives is like that. So there's other groups that are more nomadic or, a little more wild. But the main group that I'm following is trying to use technology to its advantage. And it's in a world where they've been living with what I call the fallen, which are zombies, but really a science-based zombie. So it's not like a mythical zombie that you have to cut its brain out for it to die. It can bleed to death, but it takes a lot because of physical changes by science. So more of a science-based zombie. And it's been minorly evolving over time. So the longer something has been a fallen, the more coordinated it is. Maybe week 1 it stumbles, week 2 it can walk, month or 2 it could jog, a year it might run. We're at the 20-year mark where some of them have been around a little while. And what does the evolution look like? I'm not going to give that away. But the story follows not just the people, but the evolution of the actual fallen as well.
That's cool.
And how the people are going to react to that. It starts off kind of slow where you get a close-in focused look of one settlement and kind of the problems that they have to deal with, and it just expands out a little bit further and further. And I don't actually even have a zombie show up till like episode 5. They talk about them, they mention them, but they don't see them because in a reality 20 years after that, you would have pushed the zombies as far away from you as you can. So I'm telling the story like that. This is how it would work for the individuals, and not until you get to the people that would actually see the zombies fight the zombies? Would you actually even see them? So I think it's a really interesting thing. What I initially wanted to do with it was get a lot of reader feedback. When Vela came out, I thought it was going to be a serialized thing where we can get a lot of feedback, a lot of input, and then I could change it. So I wasn't gonna create the next episode till I got feedback on the previous episode. So if people had ideas, or maybe even if they gave me a name they wanted me to kill off or something, I would write that in for the next episode. Now I've
I've
been
got
doing that
thoughts
with the
for you.
community. I've been doing that with the community I'm part of. So I've actually several of the people that have died the worst deaths, have been the best unalived. Uh, were the ones that people have actually pointed out to me that said that they'd like me to deal with that. And actually, someone felt guilty about doing that, so they wanted to take it back. So one of them's actually going to get an arc to actually redemption throughout the whole series. So come to the end of it, it's going to overall be a redemption archetype for that one character. So
Oh, that's cool.
it's a really fun project, but I'm not getting the feedback that I was hoping for. So what I'm doing is I'm just soliciting people I know for every episode to have fun with it.
And see, I thought that was such an interesting concept when you were describing it the other night. And I have not seen a lot of people come up with that thought process like you do. And it's so fun to watch you come up with those thought processes. And even when we're talking on your live, you can see this idea just flit across your face. And you're almost grabbing for the pen to write it down while we're talking. But you're like, oh, wait, I've got people. I have to be polite here.
Yeah, I'll take an idea from anyone. So this story is ongoing the same time I'm writing a bunch of other stories. So, or not a bunch, two or three. But I'm literally like turning on and off my focus to that story, and very purposely. So I don't spend all week on it, but if I have a good idea and I have something inspiring, I might go kick out a couple notes or kick out a couple paragraphs. I'm doing for those, it's really about 2,500 word episodes. And so, it's just 2,500 words of fun and making sure to tell a beginning, middle, and end with a little bit of a mini climax in each one of them. And it's just kind of fun to do. And you could really have fun with something like that. So when you're in a world that you get to do things like have evolved zombies and unalive people
I
in
don't like people.
creative ways,
Yeah.
it gets to be fun. And that sounds
And,
morbid, but it actually is fun.
yeah. And I wish more people would read your Kindle Vella stories because you are so creative when you write them. And it's just a joy to read them.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have any of the other authors, or even Nancy, have you ever had somebody that has come talking to you about books and you just spun off with a great idea all of a sudden? Any of you?
I have a friend that I will like, okay, I'm thinking about doing this, and they'll be like, yeah, that's a good idea. Or maybe this, and I'm like, oh no, that wouldn't work. But you know what else would? So I'm really good at telling them what won't work. But that spins me into what might work. So that's helpful, actually. They don't like to give ideas very often.
Meg, how about you?
Not so much from conversation. Honestly, I get probably 90% of my ideas, not even when I'm at my keyboard, but when I'm out on a run, right? That's when I think of that's when I do all my plotting. That's when I think of everything. Um, I think, and there's a science behind that too. I know it sounds, if I go off on a tangent here, we're like out of time, but
Go for it.
there's a whole science behind movement and basically creative process. There's a really awesome Huberman Labs episode that talks about divergent thinking in the creative process and as it relates to movement and as it relates to breathing that I totally believe in and go off of because all of my creative juices get flowing when I'm otherwise just in a slump or like angry because 3 toddlers have been yelling at me all day, and then it just suddenly I'm like reset and ready to go. So definitely recommend listening to that.
Hey, Nancy, did you ever run into a conversation like that?
Uh-oh.
We lost Nancy. I guess she hasn't.
Let's see if we can get her back. It looks like
I
she's
think
not
she
even
just
on
joined.
TikTok anymore.
She just joined back in.
Yeah, she just joined back in.
There she goes. All right. Well, that's better than what's happened the last 2 weeks, where it just kicks everybody off. So fingers
Yeah.
crossed that.
I don't know. Sorry about that. I thought I was going to respond and I left.
She was like,
Yes.
I'm done.
Yes. I have yet to write a book. I started one 10, 15 years ago, or even longer, and it's still not been made, but I have one in the works. But one the other day that my daughter told me about, it was actually, I'm like, you need to write a book, or I will write a book. Yeah. So I have had that happen exactly once, but it's insane. It's like, this couldn't really happen in real life, but it did. So yeah, I have.
Rick, how about you?
Actually, I was thinking about that. I not for any novel ideas I've had, but and it's probably because I took a different approach going in. But whenever I've talked about stuff for the screen with people, I definitely have been more collaborative that way, and also because I've been apologize because I've been editing for a while now. I think too, if I get into that editing space, I can then hear a story and then help guide stuff that way. But whenever I was just writer Ricky, like a year or two ago, no, I definitely like other people's ideas. People would, you should write my story and let me tell you about it. Well, that's fine, except for I'm sitting at my author event and there's a line behind you, so I would very much like it if we could get moving on that. But no, that's a different skill. I think being able to collaborate on a story, because most novelists, it's you and you're the dictator of your story. You and your characters, obviously, they do what they want sometimes, but yeah, that's a little different. I did want to say that we have surpassed 14,000 likes, which is absolutely awesome. So many gifts coming out, and I failed to mention before two things. One, this is episode 20, so Tanya and I have been doing this now for 20 weeks, and it is so fun, so spectacular. Met so many great people, and if those of you out there have more gifts to give, and you are feeling generous, definitely give Tanya some gifts, because she runs this whole thing. The panelists all know, but the people in the comments may not. She books all the guests. She runs my TikTok life. So definitely give her all the gifts. If you have gifts to give them to her. She's the one. She definitely she deserves all the gifts. But I really wanted to ask Nancy too. You're talking about writing a book. Have you entertained the idea, or do you know how one would do an audio only story, like an audio play? Because I know that those have been done, and I know a couple of authors who came together and they did the voicing, and they did an audio only book that was actually nominated for a thriller award for the International Thriller Writers, which I'm a member of. And so that was fun to see their names up there. But they didn't write a book and then narrate it, and they didn't write a book and have somebody else narrated it. They just narrated a story that was audio only. Is that something that you've looked into? Do you know how could you theoretically do that? How does that work?
Yes, you can't do it through ACX. You would have to go through the one that I've used for most of my career is Spoken Realms. That's Stephen J. Cohen, who is also a narrator, but he anything that doesn't go through ACX doesn't do public domain either. So if you want to do a public domain book, you can't go through ACX, and it has to be ACX. The one stipulation of working through ACX is you must have your work on Amazon. So if you don't have a book on Amazon, you can't use ACX. And so therefore, if you don't have a physical, either a paperback or an ebook on Amazon, you won't be able to use ACX. But you can use Spoken Realms. You could use Audiobooks Unleashed. Find Away Voices, probably you can. There are many other ways of doing it. And in fact, if you don't even want to use Audible, you can look into Apple Books, or you can look into other distribution platforms, even libraries. Blackstone Audio, Dreamscape Audio. They can get you into libraries. They can get you out on Chirp and Libro FM and some of these other places. Probably won't be on Audible, but actually it can be on Audible. Just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, because I don't know for sure. I think it can be on Audible, but you just cannot use ACX. But you have to use a different distribution service for that.
That's interesting. See, I wouldn't have thought that Amazon, like, I understand that philosophy, I guess, but I wouldn't have thought that they would want to limit themselves to where, I have a great idea. I think would work great for audio. I don't want to take the time to write it all down, but I can write like basically a screenplay, which is always on my mind these days, and give it to an audiobook narrator, and they can just do it. And
Yeah.
so they're gonna not get that revenue from having audio people just do audio, because they don't also have a book. I have a feeling audiobooks might get popular enough where they'll look at those numbers and say, okay, we can't afford to do that anymore.
Right.
As is said on here every week, the audiobook market is the only one that has continued to have large growth for the past just about decade now. Like, books kind of ebb and flow, but audiobooks are constantly going up. So I wonder if somebody at Amazon might look at those numbers soon enough and change their mind about that.
Yeah. Well, one interesting point to note, there is also an arm called Audible Studios, which is not the same thing as ACX. The primary reason for ACX existing at all is so the independent authors can find someone to narrate their books. Because guess what? For Amazon, they get a cut of that. They get a big cut of that. And so it's in their best interests for the existing books already on their platform to say, hey, well, let's just connect the narrator and the author, and we can, have this other thing. So I think primarily that they may revisit that if it makes financial sense at some point. But they have Audible Studios, which probably works outside of those parameters. But anyway.
Yep. Sounds like they outsmarted me with that Audible Studio. Sounds like they already have an arm for people who are trying to just do audio. Like, oh, we have ACX, but then also let's start some things. So obviously those people are smarter than me. But speaking of technology, I want to Tanya and I were talking about this independently of our show this morning, about how obviously, like, Congress said that the White House administration has the ability to just shut off TikTok if it wants, and then I guess some of their bigwigs, and Tanya, you can give the details if you want, have been actually talking to Congress. So I'm a little surprised it's moving this far, that people are really thinking about shutting down the number one social media platform in the country. So Tanya, like, what all did you hear on the news this morning, and what kind of refresh everybody on what we were talking about?
Well, Shu, who is the head of TikTok, has come to the U.S. to talk to Congress and to talk to Biden. And he was asking for input from the people that use TikTok as to what they wanted to see happen with TikTok, what they wanted to see become a part of TikTok. And he was definitely not wanting to shut TikTok down in America. He was very anxious that everybody who relied on TikTok for their careers, such as all of us independent book authors, narrators, artists, you name it, he knows we're out there. He knows we make our living by promoting ourselves here on TikTok. And he wanted to let everybody know that he did support our ventures on here. And I thought, well, of course, he's got a couple of coins from us coming his way as well. But I would really like to see TikTok stay around, because number one, this community is so supportive, so embracing. And we have all claimed this mentality of the higher the waters, the better the boat will flow. Mm-hmm. We aren't crabs in a bucket pulling each other down. We are trying to make sure that we all make it to the top and we all succeed, which is a huge part of our platform here on this live. This is why we are here. We want every one of you to be able to self-promote. We want you to be able to perform to your best, and we want to be there when you succeed. This is such an intense thing for me, because I love all of you to bits. And I know there are such great authors out there, such great and amazing narrators. And the artists are just out of this world. So I don't know what we would do if TikTok disappeared.
Yeah, and of course, this morning I was I'm a little bit under the weather, so I was like, well, if that happens, I guess I'll just go back to using Twitter and Instagram. But she makes a great point that the thing about those other, so Instagram you can't go live with people. TikTok, not TikTok, Twitter became toxic a while ago, and that was before Elon Musk bought it. So I haven't been on Twitter in a while. I guess YouTube you can go live, and I think you can have other people on. So, but they're just such different audiences in YouTube and TikTok. Like I don't feel like there would be a whole lot of crossover. JC, it looked like you had something to add in YouTube, Mike.
I think you can go live on Instagram now.
With people though, like with multi people like this.
One,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and see, that's what we'd be looking for. Like this show would not be nearly as interesting and popular if it were just me looking at the camera and yakking at a bunch of people. Like it's you guys that make it interesting, and my our ability to bounce ideas off of each other. So, but I'll tell you what, Instagram. I know my phone listens to me, so if you can get a word to whoever runs Instagram, they should make this multi-guest thing available on their platform. And if they do that, then they're going to be there to scoop up a lot of people if TikTok does go down. But Instagram. The thing about the ethos of that entire app is all about me, and it is a celebrity thing. It's about having completely polished, photos and all that stuff, and it's very different in terms of like I said, the what people are getting out of those apps. Because us here on TikTok, I mean, I'm sitting here in a hoodie, and my allergies are going nuts. Meg, is in her car, like. We're not worried about looking beautiful. We're worried about, like we're doing our thing. And so Instagram, its entire philosophy is different. So that's one of the reasons why people have crossover audiences. But TikTok is the one that I had the easiest time getting traction, and that's where my preferred community is. But then I know people who Instagram is the one where they have their audience, and then they post the same kind of stuff on TikTok, and it goes nowhere. So there's not as much crossover audience there as you would think. Mike, you had something to add earlier, I think.
Yeah, I've been testing out a bunch of other platforms and been enlisting several other authors to help me out. And I've tested things like Likey and several others. But what we've landed on is the best replacement for authors would be Clapper. Now, the problem with Clapper is it does have a certain political leaning as its default type, but that's changing. And so you do have to go in there knowing that, and if you just say you're not interested on political posts, you can get rid of those pretty quickly. But there are some real... I'm sorry, what?
Oh, I was going to say the other thing about Clapper is because there's no children allowed on the app, there's a lot of adult content.
Yes. And I was going to comment about that too, because when I first went on to see how Clapper was doing, if it would be an alternate for this, there was some really interesting comments aimed my way and asking if I would do things for money. And I was just like, no, we're not going to go there.
I haven't gotten any of those, and I do get those on TikTok, which is interesting.
But you and I are not the gender that gets solicited like that.
Yeah, I do get it here, but not there. But I do know that's been the users of the platform have been pushing out those type of things, and so there is actually an interesting push to get rid of it, because there's some adult entertainers that are trying to go on there, and they're getting a little more risque and a little less clothed.
All right,
and
so we're going to move on from Clapper before we get shut down because TikTok does listen to us. But somebody, author W.L. Brooks, puts in the comments that apparently you can go live with multiple people on Facebook, which I didn't know. And of course, my brain doesn't default to Facebook, probably because I've been on there so darn long. I was in the second wave of colleges that got it, so I've been on Facebook since less than a year since it's been around. But that is interesting. So I'm actually going to have to. I will look at Facebook going live with multiple people. That was not something that was available last time I checked, which was before I started going live on TikTok. So Facebook, that would be hard for the government to get rid of. And it's run by an American person. Say what you will about Zuck, he's not a foreign national. So there's a lot less chance, I think, of them shutting Facebook down. So that might have to be where we go, whether we like it or not. But there are just so many people in America on TikTok. I'm sure they would find a way to keep it around. And Tanya has a fun thing in the comment. We're not gonna say it. Like I said, the censors. Who knows what the censors are gonna do? And we have had. It's usually when we have very attractive men on our show who are models or who are a couple other people who their people actually get us a little warning. I get a little warning down there, say, hey, some of your comments are being filtered. Like, cut it out. But fortunately, everything's going good right now. This has been a great panel. Like I said, I'm having a lot of fun. We've been going for 90 minutes. TikTok tells me, so that's good stuff. And it's always nice whenever it doesn't feel like it's been 90 minutes. That's and of course, I don't think since Tanya's come aboard and helped me, I don't think I've ever had a live that felt like it was going that long. But if it weren't for Tanya, then me talking to people for 90 minutes would be like me taking hostages digitally. I think it's kind of what that it's kind of
it kind of looked like you were the one being taken hostage on the first one.
Yeah. Well, and some of you heard me say this before, but the reason I started coming on here live and wanted to host stuff, and this I think is good advice for a lot of you authors out there too who are introverted, and like us writers tend to be that way. I don't know about voice actors. I'm not sure if y'all can be all that introverted and do what you do, but maybe so. But I got on here and started going live because it was a requirement for my job at one point, and it obviously could be again. But I knew that I was camera shy. Live in front of people, I can be on a panel with hundreds of people in the audience. I can give seminars. I can give workshops. All that's fine if it's live. But for some reason, point a camera at me, and I just clam up, or I did, and still do a little bit. But I knew I'd exercise that muscle, so that's why I decided. Well, TikTok was heavily pushing go live, it's fun, you can earn money, go live. So I told myself, all right, I'm going to do it once a week, even if I feel like I'm going to have a panic attack every time. And then Tanya must have saw that I was about to have a panic attack. She reached out and said, hey, I can help. You look like you need help. And I was like, yes, I do need help. Please help me. So that's the little origin story of our show. And I thank Tanya every week that she did that because now this is fun. I'm meeting a lot of great people. I've gotten friends on TikTok. I've gotten some business arrangements with my editing and with my writing. It's been wonderful. So I know I was kind of flippant earlier today when I talked to you, Tanya, but I would definitely be missing a big part of my life if TikTok were to just be unalive, as we have to say.
I got a couple of questions if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Meg, if there was any two things that you could add to TikTok to make it better, what would those things be?
Oh my gosh.
And remember, they are listening, so no, go ahead.
Yeah.
Man, I'm in the hot seat. Can I pass it? I'm not sure. I will have to say that I'm still fairly new to TikTok and the TikTok community.
Mm-hmm.
I've enjoyed the people that I've met so far. I've made friends. The only thing with TikTok for me that's made it difficult is the it's like you're in a club, right? And there's almost pressure to continue to connect and collaborate. And some days I just want to not be on TikTok. So I guess it's a trick question. TikTok's honestly been the easiest platform for me to get on and feel like I can be on because I feel like I can be genuine.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I really like about it. I feel like I can be here with my wet hair and my sweatshirt and my dark house in my car with the kids screaming and everyone's like, "Cool, you're a person." So I wouldn't say there's anything I would add. Just in the hot seat on the moment.
Okay. JC, what about you?
Oh, you know what? I would have to say, like, I enjoy seeing my friends on this app, but I scroll through like maybe 10 videos and it's like, you're out of friends. And I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I got plenty of friends, and I should still be able to see like tons of like weeks or months of material. So I would say that I would like them to maybe change how many, people we get to see and views. I mean, I mean, I know everyone kind of complains about it every now and then, the algorithm changes and everything, but sometimes, there's just not enough views, that you just don't see enough of your friends' stuff. And I'm not talking about my views, but I'm talking about other people's views.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see more of your friends, and so you have to stalk these poor people, and then
Yeah.
end up liking like 5 of their videos that you haven't seen for the last week, and then you're like, I'm a friendly person, I'm not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
You
then
and I,
like
you and I
sometimes
talk
they
about
look at
that
it as
all the
spam.
time. Yeah. I always have to stalk JC's page because I never see her anymore. So I always let her know, hey, I'm stalking your page. I'm not really stalking you, but I want to share your content. And she's like, stalk away.
Yep.
Mike, is there anything you'd like to see changed?
Well, see, I'm probably the worst person to ask that question because I'm a vice president of software engineering, and I have a critical eye for things like this.
Mhm.
So the first thing I think would be that, so from an author's perspective, the way they've changed the algorithm has pretty much negated the idea of following people.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I've I have lots of followers who tell me, like, what happened to you posting videos? And I post almost daily and sometimes many times a day and go live 5 times a week at least.
I have a lot.
So the fact that it's not getting out in front of my followers is very disappointing. And like my biggest reader fan hasn't seen my work for months. She's emailed me just yesterday, and she's on here and hasn't seen anything from me. Thought I would die and left in the plane of reality or something. So if they would just get following to work, and
Yeah.
use the FYP however they want, but show your followers in the following feed and just let people see it. And
Right.
And that's one reason why social media has not taken the place of newsletters. Now, newsletters obviously went digital, went to email. You don't have to physically mail a newsletter anymore. But that's one reason why authors, and if you don't have an author newsletter, I always encourage authors and voice actors and anybody who's a creator to have a newsletter because, for two things we've just been talking about. One, an entire social media platform that we all love is, essentially on the hot seat and may go away. So, what are you going to do if that happens? But then two, exactly what Mike was saying is that like, you can have 10 followers, 1,000 followers, 12,000 followers, 120,000 followers, but there's no guarantee that hardly any of them are actually going to see a video that you post that you're trying to talk to your people. And I've never understood, and Mike, you may actually know the answer, and if you do, go ahead and give it to us. I've never understood why a social media, if you have a follower, why that doesn't almost just create an RSS feed where you can just go and see, every, the news thing. And I thought TikTok was going to do that with their following, that little button on there next to the For You, but they decided not to do it. And so, if you had a big following, if you have tens of thousands of followers, it seems like, a little bit of you're getting shortchanged. You worked hard to build up your audience, no matter what size it is, and you can't talk one on one with your people by posting. And so, yeah, that's one reason why author newsletters are still a big deal and why I encourage them.
Nancy,
yeah,
what about you?
Yeah, I agree. And it has been interesting because for me, well, there are a couple of things that were really interesting for me. I agree with everything. I have the same thing where I'm like, where is so and so? Where is so and so? And anyway, so yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. The other thing is I miss the Instagram button. when you go to post. I wish that was still there. And the other thing that was really hard, my situation was, I was so excited to hit 1,000 because then I could do lives. And shortly thereafter, I don't know, I would get literally hundreds of followers in a day. And that was for a period of time. But you can't go through that many. It's not like Facebook where you can go and you can check a profile and you can, so it put me in a really weird position because I think a lot of them were probably bots. I don't know. Remember the whole thing about bots last year? I was so worried about bots.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that to me is something that I wish we had a little more um, way of seeing who's following us and being able to follow them back. Sometimes I found someone today that was following me. I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, I need to follow them because, I meant to, and I just never did because they got lost in all the other follows. So, and that's weird. Why that happened, I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't know what I did, but I'm not doing it now because
Yeah.
it's not happening now. Right? You know what I mean?
I almost wish they had a button where you could assign to your friends as a favorites, and then
Yeah.
you'd have a favorites profile that you could just really quick run down.
Yeah.
Cool.
To answer your question, Tanya, the thing I would change is the messaging, the way messaging works on TikTok, because I would love to be able to message most of my people through TikTok, but Facebook and Instagram, their messaging capabilities is just far superior. And I did figure out one trick where if somebody messages me, I can pin it to the top, and then the newest messages from those people who I've pinned to the top come up top. But if it's somebody I've never interacted with before, I have to scroll all the way down through the hundreds of people I've ever messaged to find that new message down there. And that just is, I don't know, that doesn't make, I don't like TikTok's message thing. Now, we had in the comments, let me give them a shout out. Cami writes, says you can post friends only on TikTok, but I still don't I think that just makes it to where your friends can't see it, but I don't think that literally pushes it out to all your friends. Now, I may be wrong, and I would have to look that up, but I don't think that's how that function works. If it did, that would be great. So hopefully I'm wrong, but I'm not sure if that's quite how that works.
Well, and friends only is a little different than following. So you don't follow every one of your followers
Right.
back to the mutual. Like I won't follow someone if they follow me and has never posted a video.
Yeah.
There's no value for me to follow them, but they still want to see my content. The friends thing wouldn't work for that.
Yeah, no, see, that's true. So it's like, yeah, I mean, and every app has their things. But what I like about TikTok is the community. Like, it's just, to me, it's the best community I found, especially for writers and for books. Twitter was good there for a while, but like I said, that whole platform went toxic for me. I don't know if that's the same. And so we mentioned that Clapper app and there are others out there. I guess there's something like Hive Social and there's a couple other ones. I wonder what it is about some of those other ones that is going to make them not catch on the same way that these do. And we don't have to have an answer. That was just me thinking out loud. But
I do
I
have an
find it.
answer for some of them.
Oh, okay, yeah, there you go. But yeah, I always find it interesting what makes something sticky among the masses and what doesn't, because some of them, they really look kind of the same as Twitter or kind of the same as Instagram. They have similar functionalities, but it just never seems to have that same effect and that same stickiness.
The
So
audience
yeah.
is a lot of it. So if you think of Likey is really close to the maturity level of for a lot of the features, but because it's really geared towards bands and music, even though the features are the same, the audience just isn't there. And moving over our audience wholesale is harder to do on something like that. There are other ones that are like that. They're just other niche audiences, and that's where it just gets to be really hard. And then there are a bunch of the other apps that just aren't as mature. That's the one thing. As much as we have problems with TikTok, it's a mature app. They've put a lot of thought into a lot of things.
Yeah, and I've been building our platform at Book Puma, which my boss just logged on and was the one who gave us all that confetti. So hey Charles, but yeah, we've been going over about how to do that and working with our website and working with developers, and it's been a long process. So I have a deeper appreciation than I ever had for people who startup platforms and startup apps and stuff like that. Like it's trying to find a balance between what you want, what you think people want, listening to what people say when you're in beta testing, and all of that stuff. And yeah, Charles, like, yeah, we've been doing a lot of stuff for free to get that data, to get that feedback, and now that we have it, we're kind of pushing that kind of stuff out. And so it's yeah, and so yeah, definitely. If you would like to donate, no, I'm kidding. But we do thank you for all the gifts on that everyone's been coming in. We got about 20 minutes. We're about to hit 18,000 likes. That is cool. Usually I'm not like gratified by numbers and stuff like that. And like, how, I don't know if you've seen the different documentaries about how people are addicted to, getting that dopamine hit when you get your likes and all that stuff. That usually isn't me, because in addition to being 37 in my actual years, I'm about 137 in personality years. I'm about just, I'm a very old person. But yeah, like I'll admit, 18,000 likes is pretty cool. We're getting a lot of donations in the form of gifts, and like I said, if you have them to give them to Tanya. She's more than earned them. I don't pay her, so you guys have to pay her. So please, I'm gonna make that a hashtag. I know TikTok, well, yeah, TikTok hashtag pay Tanya, and let's start spreading that around. Pay Tanya at Celtic Blue PA Services. Or whatever her. I always screw up her handle. I never can get that right, and I'm sure it's not even called a handle anymore. I'm sure there's another term for it. Oh, thank you, Cami, for the hearts and for the great comments. Like that's the other thing I probably don't talk about enough is the people in the comments. We can't always see every one of you, but we can talk about all our stuff we want up here. But what you guys bring to the table is also very important, and that goes back to what I was saying about the entire TikTok community. Now, I have a solution for TikTok if it wants it. I think they should just break out BookTok and just make it its own app. That way if they get rid of TikTok, hey, whatever. But oh, apologies. But I think that's one of the biggest groups that have come out of TikTok, and it influences Barnes and Noble. There are entire conventions now, for book talkers. And so, like, I think of all the different, sections of TikTok there are. I think if they had to save one, if they had to just, cut off some limbs to keep the body, I think the body should be BookTok. Now, am I biased? 100%. But BookTok people are the best people, and I will stick by that story.
Barnes and Noble should do that.
Yeah. Barnes and Noble probably could buy like a big enough stake in TikTok and break out BookTok. They probably could. Would you go for it, Tanya? Yeah, I've been talking too much.
Okay, I was running around watching the time here. So I just thought I would really quick ask everybody what their new upcoming projects are and how to get a hold of you and where to find you, etc. Meg.
So you can find me online at meglindsayWrites.com. Currently, there's not a whole lot on there. The Tapestry series is available now on the Mithril Serialized Fiction app. It's got great illustrations, so check that out. And then later this year, I have a semi-graphic novel coming out. It's a sci-fi comedy spoof. It's called Gunslinging for Two. So more
That
to come
was
on
my
that.
favorite. I love that one.
It's a good one. That's where for audiobook narrators, I need someone with like a mean Western or West Virginia accent. Please and thank you.
CJ, what about you? Or JC, what about you?
For me, I'm working on book 4, which is going to be entitled Within the Pines. It's going to be about a group of people that go up on a horse adventure ride out the island, and 9 go up and only 8 come down. So,
Ooh,
yeah.
When is that coming?
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. And you can find me here on Instagram, on Clapper. We're giving that a shot. And on Facebook. And I also have a newsletter. That I send out once a month, and I just try to write a little short story, and then I kind of just, I try to make it fun, and it's just once a month, and of course, and then I'm saving my pennies so that Nancy and I can do my 3rd book, False Findings. So
awesome. I can't wait for that to come out. I really am looking forward to that.
Be good.
Mike, what about you?
So coming out here within the next month is Adam and Elise, an Afterverse story. That's a side story to my main series. It's a novella. And then shortly after that will be, again, a horrible printout, Destiny's Crow, which will be book 2 in the Afterverse series. Should be out in about a month and a half. And of course, I've got Past the Fall, which is released weekly on Kindle Vella. And I'm available. You can find in my link here on my bio a link tree that shows all my stuff, or at miketconley.com. And all of it's listed there.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Nancy, what about you?
So I'm actually doing a children's history text at the moment, middle grade. I don't have permission to share it, so I won't tell you the title or who it's by. But I was supposed to be narrating this week Famous in a Small Town by Viola Shipman. Just got word, though, that had to be pushed back. The manuscript wasn't ready. So I'll be starting that next week, hopefully, if they have it ready. But it's easy to find me. It's just nancypeterson.com.
Ooh.
You can go listen to demos. You can get in touch with me there. And I am totally, hopefully people on here, there are a few authors in here I've spoken with. You don't have to I am happy to just give you information on how to choose a narrator, even if it's not me. If, there's so many amazing narrators. I'm not everybody's, you know what I mean? I'm not right for everything, but I can help you kind of in that process as well. And there's no charge or anything. I'm just because guess what? We, as narrators, there are narrators in here, Paige and PJ. Did I miss? I don't know if anyone else in here. We want you to be successful. So part of our job is not just as narrators, but as ambassadors for this form of art and performance, and to help you. So anyway, there you go.
Thank you for doing that. And like she said, there are some wonderful narrators that come in every week. It's not just this week. If you do come back next week, we would love to see you. And by all means, grab any of the narrators. They would love to explain the process to you.
Yeah. And I know we got PJ down in the comments. I'm pretty sure I saw Paige, and I'm pretty sure that she gave some gifts. So thank you. So they're always great to talk to, and they always give out free advice. And of course, Tanya is online everywhere. So you just need to follow her and find her. And what is it you say? Grab her as she goes by.
Grab me as I run by.
but she's available to run your life like she does mine. Because she does it here on TikTok. She's going to start doing it at my work where I make my living. So yeah, if you think she can help you, definitely get a hold of her. I'm online at ricktreon.com, and you can find all my different socials and stuff on there. And I need to actually update that website. I'm glad this TikTok reminded me, because I mentioned that we were launching a new sort of platform, and I need to put that link on there. So that's bookpumalive.com. I need to make sure to get the link on there, and because that's a new subscription editing service. So instead of sending us $4,000 to edit your manuscript, you can pay us in monthly installments and get us on the phone and email us, and we're going to see if people like that a little bit better than the big huge chunks of money. But anyway, that is my spiel on that, and that's where you can find me online. And Tanya says that she seems to be pretty good at telling people where to go and what to do, and how to make their dreams come true. So that's what we that's if you aren't friends with Tanya, be friends with Tanya, because it will only make your life better. And we have a few more minutes. So step one is following her here on TikTok, even if you're never going to see her content, but you can still message with her, and that's one of the big things we want to do here on TikTok. And one more minute to give you last gifts if you decide you want to. Like I said, Tanya is the one who's the most deserving. And after that, it is all of our panelists because they are small creators and they will take all of the tips that you give them. And Mike, it looks like you have something to add before we wrap things up.
I do. I'm going to do a little bit of a shameless promotion for Odin's Authors, which is a Discord community I actually run, which is full of authors, readers, narrators, artists that help each other. And it's a really great community. If you're interested and you use Discord, check out my link tree at the very bottom. There's a link to Odin's Authors. Go out there and it's, we help each other out, and it's a great community if you're interested.
I need to look into Discord. I honestly don't know what that is, and that's terrible. But it started out, it seemed like it was a gaming thing, and I literally have not played any video games since N64, and I didn't really play. I watched my friends play. Like, video games were never a part of my life, but it seems like Discord has evolved beyond gamers, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and check that out. I think
my major author community is on Discord. Actually, that's where I find my author friends. So
we have a few minutes. Can one of you two give me like an elevator pitch for what Discord is and why I should be on it?
Discord is a place where you can gather communities to have different channels of conversations. You could do lives, you could do videos, but it's mainly about having different channels for different types of discussions. So my Discord,
so like an old school forum?
Yeah, kind of like a forum, but split out into topic areas, and where you could do more stuff in real time, and a little more not formatting, but a little more structure to it.
And so it's not primarily a video thing then?
No, it started out as a video chat where it was text chat and voice chat, and that kind of died out a little bit as more and more games built that in. But it's really used quite often by teams and by communities, and like an author community, to gather groups of people outside of a social app like this, where it's hard to collaborate on here, right? We can collaborate in a live, but we're only doing it with 6 people, and it might have taken collaboration to get to the collaboration. That could be the platform that actually helps you do the collaboration.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
Okay. Yeah.
Nancy, do you go on Discord?
I do. The other thing that's nice about Discord is it's people come in, you can invite people to come in, and you can kind of curate who is there. You can uninvite people. I've never had to do that. I'm not saying I did, but that way you collect the people that you want to be around. And then also you don't have those same restrictions that you do on other things like on TikTok. Like, a lot of narrators love it. They can go over there and read an entire spicy romance without having to worry that they're going to get pulled. So off their live. So, and people can join in, and you kind of hop in and out as you do on a live here. People also, what's really nice for me is I have people live proofing me. Gina will Castaneda, she's on there and she will live proof with me. So as I'm reading something, she'll say, you missed this word, or you need, you know what I mean? So it's really, it's nice. Plus there's always that sense of community, that you get.
Is it comparable to like having a personal Reddit or like a Slack?
I don't know either of those.
So it's,
I don't know.
It's more asynchronous than Slack. Slack's more real time. Like, you're messaging someone's going to message you back. It's closer to like a bulletin board where you're putting a message out and someone might get it later. So it's similar but slower, pretty much.
Well,
but you've got the same type of channels you can have in Slack with a little more organization.
So either way, it sounds like authors are on it. So definitely, if I'm gonna have to check it out, and keep that in mind if TikTok goes away. But I don't think that's gonna happen. I really hope that doesn't happen. But let's not end the show on such a sad note. I would really like to thank everyone who has come on today. Like, 20,000 likes, That is incredible. Our panel has been great. Our commenters have been great, and my voice held out just long enough because I'm sure as you're listening, you might be able to tell that it is starting to go. So if it wasn't already time, if it wasn't already coming up on 2 hours, I would say that it is time for us to go. But thank you, everybody. Great night. I really like this. This has been one of the best ones yet, and you guys are the ones who make it happen. So have a great night, have a great week, and hopefully you can all join us next week every Wednesday night starting at 7 p.m. Central.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.